Ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba. Here we are. Welcome everybody to episode 40 of Everything Teams Phone Live. And things are different today. We've got some guests that are awesome. I'm excited to introduce our guests. My station here is not my normal Seattle station. It's not cloudy. It's not rainy. It's not dark. It is, I'm in an office. It's unifiedcommunications.com. I want to big shout out to them for hosting Everything Teams Phone Live, episode 40. And it coincides with some amazing guests that we're going to have on. We've got Michel Bowman and Jimmy Vaughn, both from Microsoft, hanging out with us, talking about Teams, rooms. And we have to have this discussion, gentlemen, because we've experienced this. Everyone has experienced this. And Brandon and I, and Brandon's coming on right now. Let's take our next caller. Our next caller is Brandon Bradley from G12 Communications. Oh, and he's still muted there.
Oh, no. Can you hear me?
There we go. We've got you now. Brandon.
My microphone has died.
There you go. Well, you know, the folks from unifiedcommunications.com can send you a new microphone, Brandon.
Yeah, they're going to need to.
All right, Jimmy, Michel.
I was going to say, Rick, I know a guy.
yeah, I know a guy who knows a guy.
That's what we say in Jersey. So thank you for having us, Michelle. You and I talked about this. We're excited to be here today. We're excited to talk about Teams rooms because, like you said, Rick, every single person in the world has experienced meeting room technology that's difficult and challenging to use. And that's why we do what we do, Michelle.
Yeah. We do have to agree on one thing, though, Rick and Brandon. So I'm in the Netherlands, which means it's 9 p.m., which also means it's Friday night, 9 p.m. So for me, that's easy question day. All the difficult questions, Jimmy will take them. I'll take all the easy stuff.
There you go. You know, when we do this with Tom Arbuthnot and some other folks that we have from the UK hop on, they usually have a nice glass of wine or a pint in front of them. Anything. There it is. There it is. Oh, Brandon's now jealous.
I got to go get one. And it's only 1 o'clock here.
That's right. But it's Friday. It's what is it, 5 o'clock somewhere? It's 9 o'clock somewhere, Michelle. It's 9 o'clock somewhere. There you go.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, gentlemen, I got to tell you, Brandon and I were taking part in a meeting yesterday, and this is a customer meeting. Now, we don't do the room situation for this customer. I'm just going to be really upfront about that. But we were in a meeting yesterday. Brandon was remote. Myself and another colleague were in person. And they had this beautiful dual camera Cisco thing going on in the room and a couple of nice big panels. And do you know, the end result was we could get audio on the PC running from someone and the projector worked.
Let me talk about that, because I was on the receiving end of that terrible experience. Since I did not fly to the said location, I dialed in to the Teams meeting. No Teams room, as Rick already mentioned. And because it was a laptop sitting in this giant room, I couldn't hear what anyone was saying. So my contribution level was 0. So I think that's a good segue into what we're going to talk about today around Teams room and the experience that can be gained out of the meeting rooms that Microsoft has to offer.
Well, and this is like everyone, like I feel like I have never, and just to be clear, I do have at my home, I've got a UVC 40A link and a little panel and so I've got a little system set up in my office. Now I don't use it. I've got it on a rolling cart TV. I don't use it very often, but it's pretty cool, and it was simple. And for the life of me, I go, if you just get the right stuff, and if you just kind of like spend a little bit of time figuring it out, like but that's a big hurdle. Like having your employees that are going to go use a room, understand how to use it. It's got to be like coloring books. I mean, I feel like it's got to be as easy as a coloring book, so that anybody could walk in. I hate to say it like that, but seriously, like if it's a coloring book and you can walk in and you know, okay, this is what I have to do to get into a meeting, and it's 3 steps, and I can do these 3 steps and not be challenged with anything that's outside of, the norm, right? So we talked about norms before this call. If it's outside the norm, I'm presented with a problem, then I'm probably not going to solve it. And Brandon's probably going to be on the other end of this thing, talking into
being very annoyed. Being very annoyed.
We talk about this all.
What's it supposed to be like, guys? What's it supposed to be like?
if you ever seen a Teams Rooms device and seen the touch console, there's one button on there that says join. And that's how you join a meeting. Right? So meetings should be simple. If you are into real estate, you should sell houses. If you're a nurse, you need to take care of people, not worry about technology. Meetings should be simple. And Jimmy and I, we get this question all the time with partners and OEM saying, can we add an extra button to the layout? And can we change the UI around? Well, the answer is kind of no, because we want meetings to be as simple as possible. No fiddling around with cables. You need to walk up to the device, hit that one touch join button, and within 5 seconds, you should be in the meeting.
That's how do go ahead, Jimmy. Sorry, go ahead.
It's funny because you're at unifiedcommunications.com. That's a partner that we work with. I see that Val is actually here from AVISPL. It's another partner that we work with. But these are challenging situations that our partners go to customers with every single day. You don't want to walk in. You don't want to actually drive a meeting from your laptop. I know that a lot of organizations are doing these BYOD rooms, but you know what people aren't comfortable doing? It's exactly what Brandon was doing before this call, plugging in devices, seeing what happens. What happens when that microphone doesn't work, Brandon? So all of these things are challenges that we all know about. And what Michel and I really do is help our partners understand. So when they go to customers, they can explain, hey, we've all had this challenge, but we want to make it easier. And as we're moving into these new worlds, we work with a lot of AV partners and things like that, where they'll deliver audio and video solutions. But what happens when we get into Copilot? What happens when we get into all of these places that we want to go? And that's really why Michel and I sort of are hardcore believers. The thing is, you need a native system inside of that room that, number one, is easy to use. That, number one, removes the barrier of technology from those users that are coming to the office. If I can outfit my office better than I can if I can outfit my home office better than I can the office that I'm traveling to, why am I going to the office?
Agreed. I agree with you 100%. So let's walk through this for just a moment. Okay, I'd love to know what would be the now let's be equipment neutral for just a minute. Okay, let's say you've got a room.
We always are, Rick. We love all our partners.
Yeah, there you go. You've got a room, you've got a nice bar thing, and you've got a panel. And if I'm an employee to an organization and they've got, there's a panel, there's some cameras, there's a bar, like what would be the prescribed process for, okay, you want to have a meeting and you want this projected and you want on the TV, or you've got a projector, or you've got this, you've got this bar for the camera. Like, what's the process if you have the right equipment in place? And Michel, you said it's one button touch. Okay, but let's take it back a little further. I'm inviting a few people to this meeting. They're remote and some in person. Like, what's that 1, 2, 3, 4 step process? Invite, send the meeting out. Do I include the room? And I got the room name, and then I pop up into the room. Like, what does that look like? If I've done it right, what does that look like?
It's really that simple. Step one, go into Outlook, invite everyone you want to invite, and then add the resource account email address. So meetingroom1 at whatever, unifiedcommunication.com. Hit send, and you're done. And then you walk up to the device, you hit that one touch button, and you're in the call.
But the great thing, Rick, my camera just cut out. But the great thing is, if you send the invitation and you say, hey, I want this this room to book at this time, if it is already booked, you'll get an automatic decline. There is only one meeting allowed per time at the event location.
Okay, I can understand this. Oh, go ahead, Brandon.
Hold on, I'm going to take it a step even back from that, right? Because we're talking more on the tech side. It's been set up, but I've come from companies where massive companies, we're talking 100,000 employees, where they don't properly train the employee on how to reserve the room appropriately with the meeting room. So then what happens is you get conflict of interest, parties showing up to the conference room, fighting for the conference room. So I think it needs to start with employee training as well on how to actually use the room.
No, I think it needs to go even one step more back, and that's rethink the concept of meetings. Right? If you look at the number one disruptor in terms of productivity in companies, it's meetings. And that's because one, it takes 12 minutes to start a meeting in these BYD device scenarios that you experienced yesterday. And then two, people use meetings to share information. Meetings are not intended to share information. Meetings are intended to make decisions. So and thanks for doing that. You just posted a link to the boot camp that we're doing in 2.5 weeks from now.
Right
Jimmy
there.
and I are not sitting on the call saying, so I want to discuss X, Y, and Z. No, we do all of that on Teams. And then we have 15 minutes where we make decisions on which slides we pick, and then we move forward. We don't need to have a 2-hour meeting on discussing on what kind of stuff we want to come up with. No, we use a meeting to make a decision. So it starts there. And so many companies are still on back to back to back 1-hour meetings, which is the biggest waste of time. So I think even before thinking about adoption of how to use a meeting room, think about how should you change the concept of meetings in itself.
I like it. I like it. I'm still like mind blown. Like, hey, this is invite everybody in your Outlook, include the resource for the location that you want to do this at the time you're going to do this at, and then just if the room's open, it's booked, and you walk over to the room and hit join, and you're all set, and the invitees are ready to roll. Like that. If that's how it should be, and that's I can tell you guys, we have, I don't know, 3,000 customers or so. And we don't do rooms at this point, right? It's all of our customers bring their own stuff. We do the phone piece for organizations. That probably will change in the near future. But let me just say that has never been my experience. And people, I think, are out there are probably frustrated. I know there's CIOs and VPs of IT that are extremely frustrated with what the experience has been. And this is why it's so important what you guys do in spreading the word on Teams Room. And this is how easy it should be, guys. And with all the amazing equipment out there to capture, because, people still have their flavor of whatever it is they're loyal to, or they've heard, or they've seen it work at some other location. So they still have some brand loyalty to some of these things. But for all the equipment that's out there, and the process is supposed to be join the meetings and put the resource account in there. And I mean, that's fantastic. We got to figure out how we help in this space and really sort of help drive that sort of simplicity into meeting rooms, because it is frustrating for organizations. So what you guys do is awesome.
Exciting announcement. So next week is a week of Ignite, right? And there's a lot of nice stuff that's about to be announced. Jimmy will tell you all about it.
I don't have that filter, that's what he's referring to. Sometimes things leak out, and it's Jimmy's fault. So
there's going to be a lot of great announcements to make it even easier to deploy these rooms. And I think we're at a crossroad where almost every partner can now start deploying rooms, even if you don't have that Pro AV knowledge. There's a nice comment there by Danny in the comment section. We see a couple of best practices around the world. There's a couple of big customers here in the region that put up big billboards, not billboards, how do you call these long things?
Posters.
Posters, yeah.
Billboards that you put in front of the room that show you that you're walking into a Teams room, that you only need to push that one button. We see people putting stickers on the table next to the machine. We see people leaving out cables, because what we're also seeing is that people walk into a room, they see a bunch of cables laying on the table next to the console, and they think it's a charger for their iPad, right? So they start connecting their device, and then all of a sudden it's on screen. So we're starting to see people remove most of the stuff out of the room except for the console to dumb it down even more for the average user.
Yeah,
and that's what needs to happen. Oh, go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, Rick, that's the idea. It's got to be simple. Every single time that we go to a customer, they say we want something simple. But every single customer then goes into the conversation of one of the most complicated rooms you've ever seen. They're the ones that are in charge of the conference room. When we talk to the users, they want simple. And what's simple to them? They hit the single touch join many, many times. That's as far as they'll ever go with the technology inside of the room. If the room is set up correctly, that's all that they need to do. They hit that single touch join, and now they're in with their remote colleagues, and it feels like they're sitting across the table from others. And that's really what we want, is to sort of have that barrier of in-person and remote to be taken away as best as it can. It's never going to be taken away completely, but we want to make it as comfortable as we can for that meeting type that we're having.
Well, that's the experience. Go ahead, Michel.
in most of those videos that we publish, that the camera is placed underneath the display. Eye gaze is such a big thing, right? So when we end the stream, it's 10 p.m. and I might just go onto one of the streaming platforms and watch whatever my wife is watching. If the director wants you to feel part of a scene and part of the emotion of the actor or actress, they always film the eyes. Right?
Ah.
Even your favorite sports game, right before LeBron is taking the important free throw, he's not the best free throw shooter, but right before he's taking the important free throw, they'll film his face. I'm a big Bron fan, but so they'll film the eyes, right? Because that's where the emotion is. If they don't want you to be a participant in the scene or sports game, and they want you to be a spectator, they'll film from afar of above. Now take this concept back to into the meeting room. If you have your camera on top of the display and you're dialing in virtually, it kind of feels like you're distant from the room, like a drone hovering over the
Yep.
audience. Right? So it's small things like this that really make a big difference in the total experience.
That's actually a really good point. MJ's the GOAT, but outside of that, that makes for a really
Well, I'm an MJ guy as well. We can have that discussion, but I think we'll bore your audience.
yeah. But interesting perspective though, like engaging the eyes. One of the things that we talked about in that meeting, because obviously when you can't get something to work the way that you want it to work, and it creates a little bit of a discussion point, they talked about this whole tunnel sort of vision where it's just going down the length of the table, and people may be sitting there, but you're not really engaged with people that are remote. Right. So again, the idea of filming the eyes and filming from below a little bit or below the screen, so you've got that sort of up close engagement. That's a really important aspect, I think, and that's an insight that I hadn't thought about at all. And so that's pretty interesting. I like
And that's
that.
how you can also break down the furniture. Right. So Jared Spataro, one of our
Michelle, before we go on that, let's go back, because I'm looking at Brandon's camera. Brandon's above the screen. My camera's above the screen, but Michelle and Rick actually have that eye gaze and that level to it. And I do this a lot when I do in-person speaking. I'll intentionally speak to the ceiling and I say, do you believe anything that I'm saying if I do this sort of thing? Do you understand what I'm doing? But that's the kind of thing that you really do instinctually. For thousands and thousands of years, we have been bred to talk to people in the eye. And when we are in person, that's what we do. But somehow, remotely, we've all gotten okay with this idea. But instinctually, we're all still uncomfortable with that. So when you join meetings, when you have these sort of meetings and you're going through this, you sort of wonder, why is this stress put on me? You don't always know why you're having a bad meeting, but these little things that we can do. And Michelle, you sort of talked about the eye gaze. We can talk about spatial audio and the idea that audio is hitting each ear differently. And the idea of the cocktail party. That's what we're trying to do, is get more natural things inside of the meeting on a remote level so that we can equalize the people that are in the room and the people that are outside of the room. So we don't have a better citizen inside of the meeting itself.
Well, and that's the whole thing, right? Go ahead, Brandon.
I was going to interject. This is just totally social, in that I tell Rick this all the time, that I want a meeting room on my desk, because I'm tired of this, I'll call it janky setup, where it's one day my camera works, one day it doesn't. And the only spot I have for my camera is up on top of my monitor instead of a nice little bar under my monitor. All that stuff. So I always say I want to turn my work environment into a meeting room.
So let's take that for a moment as the segue, because I'd love to hear some opinions on, and again, not to favor any particular vendor, but what's some really, really cool equipment that you guys have seen in action lately, and that you really go, man, this is just, I wouldn't say head and shoulders above anything else, but this is just really simple. It could be a simple platform. I mean, there's a lot of, really high tech stuff out there, but like, what's a really, what surprises you guys, how good something is, yet it's really sort of easy? Is there something out there?
Signature room, Michelle.
No, yeah, I'll go first just to make it more difficult than you. And you have to, by the way, Jimmy. You're not getting out of it. What I like, so we all remember those good old 360 cameras, right? From back in the day. I hated those things. I thought it was a horrible experience. It was awful. Now what you're seeing is that these cameras have become really smart. So there's a lot of AI on board. So let's say you're in the meeting room. So let's say I'm dialing in virtually and the three of you are in the meeting room. If I would just look into that room and you would have a conversation amongst yourself, I would start looking at the side of your face. And again, that's when I cannot build a connection with you because I cannot look you in the eye. Now, because of the AI that's on some of these cameras, you can still see you can still see the front of the face because the 360 camera sits right there in the middle of the table. And then if there's a conversation being held on the table, the camera will film from the front. And as soon as you switch to your face to the front of room display, the camera from the Teams Rooms device will pick up again. So I think that the 360 center of table cameras are going to make a big comeback, and we're seeing some of them already. And I've been quite impressed with what these things can already do, and that's only going to go. That development is going really fast.
So when you say the 360, is this like a puck that's got little cameras around it that sits in the middle of a table? Is it like I remember I'm going to say old, but maybe they're not old, but like that was the eye thing or something like that. I'd say it's been a while, but like this little cone or something like that. Does anybody remember those? Are those still out there? Is that what we're talking about?
It kind of looks like that. They're currently, I think, 3 or 4 in market or about to be released in market. But I like the idea of, again, it's all about creating meeting equality, right? It's all making sure that everybody's included in that meeting. And if you're dialing in virtually, like Brandon just said, right, he felt like a fly in the wall when he dialed into that meeting yesterday.
Yep.
You don't want to be that fly in the wall if people start having a conversation amongst themselves and turning the side of the head to the front of the room display. And now it's being able to, again, create that eye gaze between people because the camera is intelligent enough to pick up to know when to switch from front of room to what's sitting in the center of table. So I like that stuff. Danny, thank you for putting that in there. I didn't want to call anyone out. I'll leave that for
Danny's hitting some of the newer cameras on the head right there. So
that's great. That's awesome. This is good stuff. I mean, and so like I'm curious about something like that. Do those cameras, Michel, that you're talking about, does that stuff come with like there's a panel also, so it's the same sort of one touch join, something in the middle, and here you go, you're off and ready to roll.
And that's why we certify, right? So we certify for that reason. When we certify devices, they need to live up to a certain spec. And that spec sheet is long. I think it's 160 pages for audio, 160 pages for video. Jimmy, you have more experience with this than I do.
Yeah.
And only if you meet those specs, we'll put the stamp of approval on it and make it certified. And with the device being certified, it means that you always get that one experience, even if you mix and match different OEMs. So if you take one brand compute and then one brand camera and one brand tap and then one brand audio, whatever, it all works together. And that's because these devices are certified to work together.
Yeah, we do a lot with certification. And one of the things that we actually do, we go to the lab, and there's 2 labs in the world that actually certify Microsoft Teams and Teams Rooms devices. And one of the tests that's actually very interesting with the camera is they put a softball in front of the camera itself. Now, cameras can do some crazy things. How many times have you met somebody in person and you've been on camera with them, but they look nothing like what they do on the camera? That's something that's very common that we want to get rid of. We want the best representation of the person that's actually inside of that room to be conveyed over the Microsoft service. So we do things like this, where we put that softball in front of the camera to make sure that curvature is actually the softball and it doesn't look like a potato.
I'll just say
one thing that so many cameras do. I mean, their visual tricks are great to do to make a camera look great, but they don't give a good real life impression. So that's just one thing. And like what you said, Michel, there is a long list of things that all of these things have to go through to make sure that they're certified.
I was going to say I'm thinner in person, just in case we ever meet.
And I'm fatter. Let's just put it out there.
and I have less gray hair in person. There we go.
But Rick, I'll go one step further than Michel actually on cool things that we've seen. And I think this is something that anybody that has visited one of these rooms can attest to. We've got signature Microsoft Teams rooms. And it's not one thing of technology. It's the technology that's inside of the room. It's the furniture that's inside of the room. It's the lighting that's inside of the room. And it's the displays that sit inside of the room. So all of this leads to the experience of what used to be a 7-figure conference room. We've now got that down to a reasonable level where everybody can experience something like this. And if you put these sort of rooms in, what you get people coming to like partners at unifiedcommunications.com, leaders and IT decision makers are going to them and saying, I want this room. And they're not saying, I want this technology. They're just indicating, I want this experience because everything that I'm having right now seems very natural to me and gives a good feeling inside of this room.
Well, you hit on something that's pretty interesting, because I do want to say, I know Ignite's coming up. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of things laid out at Ignite. I've seen the curved desk. I'm not sure what the curved desk thing is called. So I've seen sort of the concept. I didn't spend a lot of time looking at it, but I've seen it. It looks amazing how it is eye level, Michel. We're talking about everything is eye level. So not just the cameras, but the engagement is eye level. So that seems to me like that's going to be pretty interesting. I want to dive into that in just a second. But what I want to hit on, Jimmy, that you talked about is the dollars and cents that an organization could expect to lay out for a platform, a room. Do you guys keep track of like, what is a standard room cost? What is like a 6-room conference room cost? And again, vendor agnostic here, but like when you say you can get that down, what does that look like roughly? And let's take pro services out of it. Let's take this out. Let's just take, I'm talking just bare bones equipment, guys. What does that look like these days?
Yeah, I'll step in here and say you can get these things for around $1,000 right now. One of our OEMs actually just started introducing systems that are starting at $799 US. So you can get into these rooms at a reasonable level right now. You know, it used to be, okay, we're just going to put a phone inside of the room. And phones were $500 at that point. And we're just going to put a phone inside the room and we're going to have audio calls. You're now almost getting to the point where we can actually take that phone out of the room, replace it with a video system, and really have quality meetings like we're talking about.
Jimmy, the star phones are like $1,000, man. If you're talking about the Cisco star phones, the Poly star phones, right? The Treos, those are like $1,000 phones, right? So if you put $1,000 phone system or phone in your room for audio, like you should be looking at these room systems.
Yeah,
$1,000. That's amazing. Like Brandon, you should stick one right on your desk right there, so it creates your own little setup in your office there.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Now, these aren't meant for large rooms. Your larger rooms are going to cost more, but for those small phone booth rooms and things like that, yeah, you can expect that this is kind of what we can enable inside of this room. But like you said, take out this professional services, all the different things that go into that. That can add some value into the room. And one thing that Michelle and I have seen is adding partner services onto your purchase of hardware is one of the most beneficial and return on investment options that you can add to these things. Because you know what we might think is unplugging and plugging something in and doing this, this fixes it and everything else, that's not reasonable. You want these devices to sit inside of your office space and not be touched, but make sure that when the next person comes in, they work. And that's what our partners really offer there, is that peace of mind. And through things like the Pro Portal that Microsoft actually puts out, we can have partners monitor all of your devices and go ahead and make sure that they're working. And if they're not working, either AI or a partner representative can actually take remediation actions remotely without actually having to send somebody to the room. So while I will say it's easy to get into these rooms for that $1,000 price point, and on a flip side, if you don't have the budget to actually lay it out, you can do it like a phone where they're available for a per month fee as well. So all of that is there, but those partner services definitely add value into the system as well.
I want to tie back into a comment that Michelle made earlier about that 12 minutes of lost productivity in meetings when you're fiddling around with equipment. How much labor expense are you going to save? If you got 15 people showing up for a meeting and they're sitting there idle for 12 minutes, over a year, however many meetings, it makes that price point that much more valuable. Jimmy, to what you were saying about the benefit of adding that partner service to whatever that equipment is.
That's exactly where I was going to go with Brian. I'm sorry, Michelle, to step over there. That's exactly where I was going to go, though. Like, does Microsoft have something out there that says, "Hey, this is the productivity gains you could expect"? Because we've got on the phone side, we've got this Forrester research, and we talk about the savings and stuff for Teams Phone. Is there a productivity guide for room? Oh yeah, you guys, what do you got, guys? Lay it on me.
There's the total economic impact for Teams rooms as well, and there's total economic impact for Pro Portal. I think that was just released. So yeah, all of that is out there. And I like what you said there, Brandon. I was just talking to a customer yesterday that has made it a thing that with the start of every meeting, they would put in the text field in the chat, "Hey, this meeting will cost us this amount of money if we sit here for an hour. So let's be cautious of time, and let's make sure we use these meetings in the right way, because otherwise we're just going to spend a bunch of money." I think people don't realize how much people actually cost just sitting there. There's a study that shows that if you are in a meeting with more than 7 people, with every extra person you add, the productivity comes down with 10%. Let's say that meeting that you were in last week with 15 people was completely useless. But people don't realize that. And so putting that in the chat and saying, "Hey, this meeting will cost us $1,500. Let's make sure it's a valuable meeting." I think that helped with kind of resonating with the value.
Two things, Michelle. I'm not paying you more for the extra 15 minutes. All right, that's number one. number two. I'll put you guys on the spot. Is there any way you guys could throw the link up in the chat if you guys have those links handy for the total economic impact things?
Jimmy talks, yeah.
We can look at them, but one of the things that's actually really cool, Rick, is we have a very easy license structure for Teams rooms. There's a basic license, which is free, which gives people the opportunity to actually try Teams rooms without incurring that monthly cost. You can get up to 25 basic licenses. Now, what is this? It's just what it is. You put it on, and it's licensing that device. You really have no control over that device. You don't have a lot of options to it. The value comes into the Pro license, and the Pro license licenses features. So things like front row, things like cloud IntelliFrame, all the different features that are out there are inside of that Pro license. But one of the benefits that you get is also this Pro management portal from Microsoft. Every device auto enrolls into the Pro management portal as long as it has a Pro license on top of it. When it goes in there, there's actually a report that we're starting to generate that will show you your return on investment for rooms. And this will automatically be reported, because I can tell you, and we do it here at Microsoft as well. I'm not casting aspersions on everybody. I think that we at Microsoft have this problem as well. When you go to somebody who's in charge of conference rooms and you say, "Well, how many rooms do you have?" The answer 9 times out of 10 is, "Well, I don't know." Right. And then you say, "Well, how are they actually equipped?" Well, if they don't even know how many rooms there are, they don't know how they're equipped. So they don't know how many times that room is booked, how many times somebody's used it, how many times ghost meetings have happened where somebody books it for the whole day but never shows up. Now what we can do inside of the Pro Portal using these Teams rooms is actually give you that return on investment in a report that you can give to leadership and say, "Yes, we invested $1 million in rooms, but holy cow, look at how much we saved in employees' costs from not having to run from room to room to manage these, in employees' costs from meetings starting on time, in employees' costs from actually not even having to look at this Pro Portal because AI took and remediated a problem that we had automatically, and we have better meetings inside of the organization." So now we can actually take that and put it in a dollar value and give it to the customer as well.
That's amazing. I mean, guys, that's I'd love to. Can you guys show what the Pro Portal looks like? I've never seen the Pro Portal. I've never looked. Do you guys have anybody? Can you guys show that?
Do you have it up? I don't know that we don't have one with a lot of data inside of it, because we sort of had just our demo tenant.
Show you something. Just give me a good.
Yeah, but that's where we really see the value is in being able to deliver to customers the information that they don't have. You cannot make a quality decision on your real estate and investment, on all of your meeting rooms, on everything, if you don't have data. And we've seen it with Microsoft ourselves. We've got tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of meeting rooms across the world. How do you actually do all of this? So really, Microsoft is customer zero when it comes to all this.
That's amazing.
Let me do a quick tour, right? So what Jimmy said is when you ask a customer how many meeting rooms do you have, or what's happening in these rooms, they often don't have the answer. So here we see all the rooms that we have, the rooms that need action. Funny, interestingly enough, 24 rooms, all of them need action. We
'Cause
suck.
they're all with the default password is really the answer.
Yeah. But this is a good example, right? We'll take Jimmy's room because Jimmy's room is always a mess. So we can. So the Pro Portal is telling us, hey, there's an issue because there's default credentials in one of Jimmy's rooms. So it'll tell you what the issue is. Not only tell you will it tell you what the issue is, it'll also give you the way to fix it. Right. So there's a deep link right here. For the nerds on the call, and I know there's a bunch. I'm a nerd myself, so don't be offended.
We love it.
Right? People, I hate to go into things like a PowerShell. It's just not my thing. I know how it works. I know where to find the right words to use, etc. But now I can manage my resource account straight from the Pro Management Portal. Right? So here, in this case, well, there's some stuff that I can change, even if I have no idea how I should change it. Well, let's apply the recommended changes. Jimmy's room is set up nice. And I can save it, and then it automatically creates the resource or fixes the resource account for me. And Jimmy, you were talking about these reports.
Yeah, if you go to the reports itself, you can overgo that, and then you can go into insights, and it'll give you all the things. Like I said, these are sort of demo rooms that we have that we utilize to sort of set up and reproduce some of our partner issues, some of our customer issues, also for us to learn and actually go through stuff. So, but you can see all of this stuff sort of automatically brings it in.
Now, as a customer, you can say, "Oh, wait a minute, I have 15 unused rooms. What's going on here?"
Yeah.
You can reevaluate.
And Rick, yeah, and Rick, I will tell you, if we jump from the reports over to the planning part, this is my favorite part of the Pro Portal. We're going to help customers create standards. And the reason why, Rick, is because if they were to come to you or Brandon and they want to say, hey, I need another small room, we shouldn't have to reinvent the wheel. We should know that their small rooms are standard with this brand of device, this monitor. This is the bill of materials that we need for that room. And they should be able to click a button, send it off to their Microsoft partner and say, I'd love Rick and Brandon to order this room again. And that's what we want to do for everybody, is make this meeting room process no longer a science experiment for every single room that we have. We want standards because we know people need more meeting rooms. If we're not all going to the office, we know more meeting rooms are going to be the standard that we have. And if we reduce that complexity and reduce the friction of, well, who do we call to actually do this? How do we actually standardize this? And what do we do? That's where we're going to help these customers in their journey.
So can I put you guys on the spot and ask a fairly specific question around
again,
meeting rooms?
Brandon, it's Friday evening, 9:30
It's Jimmy's on the hook.
He's not having it. He's not having it, Brandon. I'm not being put on the spot on a Friday night.
I'm just curious. So you were on the reports tab, and it's showing you got 15 unused rooms, and it made me think: is there insight into, earlier we were talking about you can only schedule one room at a time because there's a guardrail in place, but is there the ability to see, hey, do I have a bunch of users that maybe only know about 4 conference rooms, and now we keep trying to overbook these rooms, and we need to educate maybe that, hey, we've got another 7 rooms over here that users need to know about.
Yeah, and that's also cool with the insight. So we'll be bringing more and more signals from the room into the Pro Management Portal. For example, if there's a room that has room for 10 people, but most of the time there's only 4 people in the room, right? That says something about how that room is being leveraged, right? So you might want to, going back to what I think it was Danny in the chat said about employee training, right? And making sure they are aware of what kind of rooms you have. So those insights will also help you in the Pro Management Report to see how are people actually using these rooms, and are they using them to run online meetings, or are they just doing offline meetings or meetings with only people in the room, or are they maybe even adding some bring your own device meetings into these rooms, which is definitely not what you want. So looking at the insights reports in Pro Management Portal is one of those ways to drive user adoption more effectively.
And
So let
Brandon
me,
and Rick, there's actually in Exchange, there's something called Room Finder. We use it here at Microsoft, and you can actually you can train your users to find rooms that number one might be close to them. You can also restrict rooms. Remember, this is an Exchange resource account that lives inside of Exchange Admin Center. You can restrict to groups. Only this group can book these rooms. Again, opening it up so that they might not even see it because it's not inside of their group. But with Room Finder, you might be able to search for which rooms have the technology, which rooms don't, and so on and so forth. And you can actually send an automated response from that resource account, giving those users instructions of when you get to this room, here's all the technology that's there. And here's what it looks like, by the way, when you get to this room, so that they can be accommodated for prior to going to that room, understanding, hey, you're just going to hit the single Dutch join and you're going to go into the meeting.
And I can only imagine, I'm now just creatively thinking about the flexibility that comes maybe down the road with Copilot when you go to schedule a meeting room and Copilot is guarding your process and how many participants, whatever the questionnaire may be, and it's going to go put you in a room that best suits
For sure.
whatever your requirement is.
Not only that, suggests a room when you actually start the meeting, because here's all these people. Are you all going to be in person? Remember, we've got those hooks inside of Outlook now that I'm remote or I'm in person and so on and so forth. If you're the only person, think about this. If you're the only person that's going to be inside of the office, remember, we can actually alert you. Maybe you want to stay home.
Yeah.
That meeting. So when you have a meeting with 6 people and we know that you're in the office and you book a room, you will not get a room that fits 6 people. You will be put in one of those smaller 1 or 2 people type of rooms instead of automatically booking a bigger room. So through again those signals and knowing who's in the office and who isn't, we're going to make the way we leverage meeting rooms, I think, a lot better as well.
The AI on rooms is and the opportunity of AI on rooms is huge. And that's why we say, if you are a Teams house, use Teams rooms as your solution. I mean, that's the first rule. It's like Fight Club. That's the first rule.
We're diving into the ecosystem entirely. So Teams Room is, again, we haven't really spent any time on Teams Rooms in our organization, but I got to say, this is interesting to me. So I'm going to shift gears for just a second because I'm curious, like the partners out there that you guys support, is the managing of the Teams Room just all of what you guys just shown, right? So it's maybe selling the equipment, maybe it's installing some equipment for some pro services, it's managing what the Teams Room sort of structure and sort of not structure, but maybe what does the box look like here? And I don't mean physical box, but here's the template essentially, right, for the Teams Rooms. And then is it like, are you on standby in case somebody has a problem and you're like, how do for help, hit this button and you're connected to like your Teams Room sort of support organ. What do those things look like from partners? This is pure curiosity on my part here.
And that's also what the Pro Management Portal can help, right? So I just showed you all the issues that they have. Those issues are linked to a ticket. But so if you use a service like ServiceNow, you can link the Pro Portal to ServiceNow. So as soon as there's an issue in a tenant, we'll try to mitigate it in our cloud. Right. So if we find out there's an issue, we get so many signals from across the world, we'll try to mitigate that issue and fix it for you as Microsoft. Now, if we can't, we'll make sure that a ticket is raised in the Pro Management Portal. And the partner that's managing the rooms for you will receive that ticket and an alert saying, hey, we have an issue with customer X in room 21 on this and this floor, and this is what the issue is. Again, it will not only give you what the issue is, it will also give you how to fix it. And that's where partners really come in. They don't have to go on site anymore if there's an issue. You don't have to call IT to see if they can come to the room anymore. They can manage all of these straight from the Pro Management Portal.
No more crawling under tables, no more crawling under the desk, no more shaking the server cable, none of that stuff anymore. It's super simple.
But even with that, right? If there's it could be as simple as, the power seems to be disconnected. Right? And that's where you do ask a user, can you see if the device is plugged in, yes or no? Oh, no, it wasn't. Oops. And then they connect it. That's also stuff that you can see. And what I'm seeing with partners, and I'll let you answer as well, Jimmy, is that more and more are starting to understand how to build managed service models after the sale itself, which is kind of different from how Pro AV used to work. Right? Pro AV used to be, hey, we're gonna make the most complicated boardroom with all these fancy features. So you can open and close blinds and turn off lights that only us nerds. And I saw somebody, Paul, said in the chat, you can't insult nerds here. We're all on the same page, right? Paul, we understand all this kind of stuff. The average user, they don't want to close the blinds. They just want to start the meeting. And so what you're seeing now is that partners are starting to understand that there's actually a lot of money to be made on the after sales part and the managed services around rooms.
I'm going to say really quickly, Brandon, is your brain like churning right now, Brandon? Like, are you like looking at this going, okay, all right, okay, excellent. So
Yeah,
this is super cool.
I mean, I need that for my little loft office, because now I'm living in the mountain time zone where it's dark at 4 o'clock in the afternoon now. So I need my lights to automatically come on for my meetings.
I can't argue anything.
We like on this stream tonight. We like. I also want to come into my office and the lights turn on automatically, and I just put one button.
But the users don't want it.
Assistant to do something with the room, and it auto transforms into Optimus Prime. I love that stuff as well, and we all do on this stream. But again, the average user,
they just want it to work. Yep.
It's a coloring book, man. You got to make a coloring book. You got to make it. Let's just draw.
It's the same. It's the same with everybody asking for the pan, tilt, zoom camera. And yeah, I want to be able to pan, zoom, and tilt. Nobody's ever going to use that. Right? And right? Oh yeah, whoever said, again, nerds, I'm not talking to us. Whoever said, well, let me go pan, zoom, and tilt on this meeting. Nobody. Right? So the room should not be complicated. And plus, with all these cameras, there's so much technology built into them that they will automatically pan, zoom, and tilt. No need to do that manually anymore. So don't overcomplicate the rooms.
Okay, hang on. I'm gonna deviate for just a second, because I'm getting the dichotomy of your act here, guys, on LinkedIn, right? You got Jimmy Smiles over here, and you got Michel Deadpan over here. And you make for a great dynamic duo right there. That's fantastic. I love this. This is awesome. All right. Well, let's see here. So we've covered cost, we covered productivity, we covered some of the models that you guys have seen partners kind of start to find out, from a managed service perspective. One more thing, I'd love to have you guys, what's kind of give the crowd, if a CIO is listening, if a VP of IT is listening, like what are some things that organizations should look for, not look for? I mean, we're all about Teams Phone and Teams Rooms and everything, but what are some things that some good tips and tricks, if you would, like in this space? What do you think?
I'll give you one. Every single CIO and every single leadership wants to talk about the one room. And that one room is usually the boardroom that's already outfitted with some difficult to use scenario. And they don't want that, but they want to know what to put into that one room. And what they're missing is that other 99 rooms inside of their organization. They should be focused on the large deployment and making sure that that's easy to use, because those are the rooms that we see right now are getting the most usage. Why? That boardroom may be used once or twice a month, once or twice every quarter, whatever it's happening and everything else. Now, I know that's the cool room to talk about, and that's the cool room that's going to get a lot of budget and a lot of money to that room. But you can't minimize those other 99 rooms, because, again, for there to be a commute, what we need to have is something to attract people back to the office. And if that something is the technology that's inside of the office, then let's make sure that it's easy to use, it's accommodating, and again, gives a good meeting for us. So one tip that I can tell you, that one room, it's very important. I get it. It's very important. But let's not start with that one room. That's going to be the most complicated room out there. Let's start with a simple room. Make sure that you as a decision maker, your employees, everybody in the organization understands how this is going to work inside of that room. And then we can go looking at other places to put it into.
That's a great tip, because everyone is if you're the VP of IT as an example, and you're looking at this going, okay, I'm tasked with doing these rooms, right? Well, my CEO wants to see this in this particular room, my CEO's experience. And so I'm looking out for this boardroom experience. And I put all my time, effort, budget, and energy around outfitting this one room. But that's not the productivity. The productivity is in the other rooms that your team is using to make decisions, because that's what meetings are supposed to be for, to make decisions, right? So to make decisions every single day. So that's what a good sort of package. That's a great tip. So I'll write that down in the notes here, not in the notes, but in this comment section here in a moment, because I think that's really important enough for me to repeat so that it's easy, because I need the coloring books, Jimmy. It's like, plan for the rest of the rooms and save the boardroom, either later, whatever it is, but plan for the.
Get you in here. That's it,
man.
Yeah.
So Rick, you heard it first. My room comes before your room.
And Brandon, but that's one thing you're going to find is that these room systems, remember, they are meant for shared spaces, but they also have a place where it can help you in your personal space as well. And we're seeing that partners are actually doing that in some of their personal spaces, giving the VIP or the C-level executive a way to actually offload their meetings. So their meetings are on a separate device versus the device that they're actually using. I hate to say it, we all multitask inside of meetings. I'm using I don't want to drive my meeting from here. I have other devices actually over here on the right that Michel knows. I can join meetings. I can do things with that while I'm not paying attention to him and looking at LinkedIn.
Well, and what I'll say is, you'll see this TV up over my shoulder here. I've told Rick this a million times. This needs to turn into a smart board, because I spend a lot of time whiteboarding, because to Michel's point, I'm a nerd, right?
Yeah.
Like I have to put things on a board for people.
Yeah.
So,
but he's easily insulted. It's like, come on.
This TV is kind of a waste of space on my wall, because it can't be used for productivity. It's just there for entertainment. And then think about this. I'm standing at a whiteboard, which means I'm fully engaged in the meeting, right? I'm not sitting at my computer IMing and checking email. I'm here, and maybe I've got a camera here and a camera here. You get the point.
Yeah.
Or mixed both, right? If Danny's still here, Danny, maybe you can put up a list of different boards that are out there.
I was just going to go there. Danny,
that are a combination of just regular whiteboarding and a Teams Rooms device, both on Android now with Service Hub on Windows. That would work perfectly on that wall you have right there. And for me, that's kind of the red line through this whole episode is Brandon wants a Teams room.
I want a Teams room. I'm hoping the powers that be are listening, so I can go expense it. Wink, wink.
But these boards, but let's even talk about that, because these boards, Rick, you talked about, all right, well, I might have to pull cables for a room. I know I have to do some of these things, but you can Teams enable a room just by wheeling a board into it. These are Teams room systems that give you the display, the camera, the microphone, the speaker, everything in that one device that you're wheeling into the room. Plug it into power, you're good to go.
Are you talking about a TV, Jimmy? Or are you talking about a board, like a board that you're scribbling on? You're writing down like you're
talking boards. Many of our partners actually have boards, and like if Danny was here, I'm sure he'd put the manufacturers in. But they actually sell the boards that have the stand. They're on a stand, and you just wheel them in, and it's actually the display. It's an interactive display that can be whiteboarding and everything else as well. But you touch and join the meeting from that interactive display as well.
Right. Jimmy, hold on, Rick. Jimmy, which one though? Name them.
There are a couple. We have Meet. We are for friends at Meet. We have our friends at Yealink that have a board. We have the Surface Hub, which is a Microsoft device. Am I forgetting anyone?
So that's why it
I
gets
think that's
tricky.
it. That's why
we
I wanted Danny to do it. I think that's it, though.
Yeah, we love every OEM, but for
Yeah.
us, whenever we mention one, the other
The other
sometimes
ones get,
mention
yeah.
them. So
We love
I'm
all of them.
big Jimmy into
See,
doing.
you guys didn't even warn me of that, and I knew that ahead of time. That's why I was like, we're not going to name names. So let me ask: is the board invited to the meeting just like a room is? Is that how does that work?
It's an Microsoft Teams room system. Same rules, same everything.
And it
Man,
would look
that's
great
cool.
on Brandon's wall.
It would look
cool.
great up there. Look great.
Oh, it would
up
look
there.
amazing up there. Like I want one. That sounds fantastic because we scribble a lot. Like you guys are in IT and you guys have partners that are all IT guys. Like you to get a point across. Like you gotta scribble it down. Like I can't do a Visio in 10 minutes or in 5 minutes during a meeting, but I can hop up and I can get on a whiteboard and I can scribble some things down. And
I forgot one. The Cisco WebEx board is now certified as well. So Cisco has one as well.
did you get a nasty gram like on your mobile phone? You're like, hey guys,
Yeah.
like,
of course I did. I just got
Make that Cisco plug.
It's difficult for you to turn to create a Visio, but it's easy to scribble. So we're announcing something next week at Ignite that's related to Copilot. That when you say something in Copilot, it will actually visualize it for you in another app.
You
oh,
can't say that yet.
So now you can just have a conversation. You don't have to take notes. You don't have to take script. You don't have to scribble. Yes, Brandon, I still think a board would look great on that wall.
Yeah.
Don't have to
Right.
scribble, but during the meeting, you can ask Copilot to put that into a canvas, and then everything will be visualized.
Oh, we just had the budget carved out for Brandon, and now we've just slashed it. Now,
I just lost. Thanks a lot for that. I just lost my budget.
First time and last time on the show.
that's exciting. You heard it here first, not at Ignite. I'm just kidding, Michel.
Right?
I'm just kidding. For our millions of users, or millions of listeners,
I still didn't tell you what it is, but I'll give you a little hint. Jimmy will tell you all the details. Just ask him about it.
It's very cool. It actually does like post-it notes across the thing, and it's
I love
really
that.
cool when you see this thing.
That's fantastic because like people are visual. Like you've got to people learn. I think not a lot of it, but you've got either you learn contextually, you learn visually, you learn like there's the way that you share concepts and share ideas. Being able to put it into a drawing that is understandable. That's pretty amazing. That'd be pretty. And if you could just say what you want it to look like, that's pretty cool. That's real. You just saved a bunch of minutes right there, right? When I said if I have to put a Visio together, it's going to take me 15 or 20 minutes to stick a Visio together, right?
Michelle and I cannot wait. Now we do have, because we both work for Microsoft, we do have access to Copilot. We cannot wait for everybody to see all of the things that we have available to us inside of Copilot. There's talks about, well, this costs this much, this costs this much. I can tell you, I overuse all of the AI that we have access to, and it helps my productivity incredibly. So anything that they're giving to me, the return on value is immense. You just have to work this into your workflow, and it's huge.
So the two things I want for each of you. I'd love to hear your answer since we kind of skipped over AI just a little bit. We kind of dabbled into it. And that's a whole discussion itself. But what I'd like to know is what do you find in Copilot since you're using it? We've had a little access to it as well. But what do you find most useful in Copilot right now? That is there something different than here's the summary of meetings and here's what's your favorite use of it right now? And Michel, same question to you. What do you find most useful?
Yeah, I have a couple. What I'm currently using a lot at the end of each day, and I did it a little earlier today as well, is help me prepare for my meetings next week. Put 2 to 3 bullets with information that's key for me to know about those meetings, and focus mainly on my emails and chats from last week. And put it in simple language so I have a fast start. And I hit enter, and within a couple of seconds, I'll have a full outline of what I can expect next week, and then 2 or 3 bullet points of stuff that I need to know so that I go into that meeting prepared.
Man, that's cool.
Yeah, and I'll give you mine. Rick, we were talking before. I just recently traveled for a couple of weeks and everything else. Well, we've all had this experience. You travel and your inbox is like huge, and there's a ton of emails inside of there. and just asking Copilot, can you please bring forward on the most important emails that I have and everything else? That 1,000+ emails that I had turned into maybe 35, 40 emails, and then I can mark the rest as read.
Man, see,
I'll give you one more. Yeah, I'll give you one more. So
Yeah.
we have an MTR Microsoft Teams Rooms experts chat. 500 of the smartest people around Teams Rooms in one chat. And it's from across the world. So it's across time zones. So by the time I wake up tomorrow morning, there's a bunch of chats in there. I love to keep up with that kind of stuff because I learn a lot from it. But it's difficult, right? If you have to scroll back, and especially if you've been traveling, you cannot pick everything up. So what I'll do is I'll ask Copilot, create me a table of all the questions that have been asked in the past 7 days and put the answer in the next column. I hit enter and I get all the questions that were asked plus all the answers, right? So now that enhances my knowledge, and that whenever a customer comes up with something, I've most definitely, if a customer asks it, it has most definitely been asked in that chat as well, right? So
Yeah.
going into the group chat and saying, hey, what has been discussed this week? Put it in the table and show me the question and the answer. That's helping me a lot right now.
what a great examples from both of you guys on how productivity is massively enhanced, right, by using Copilot. If you ever wonder, is that worth $30 a month to you? I mean, it seems like it certainly is, right?
It's huge. Yeah.
Well, guys, we've reached the top of the hour. What an exciting discussion! This was really fun for us. I learned a ton. This is exactly what we wanted to share: is have you guys on, help us spread the word on Teams Room, help us understand Teams Rooms and the model and the equipment and the experience and all those things. The discussion has been fantastic, and I want to say thank you very much for you guys carving out some time for us. Michel, it's time for your walk, so I certainly thank you very much for staying up late out of Amsterdam. And Jimmy Vaughn, thank you very much for coming on and hanging with us. Like I said, you guys are a dynamic duo, and it's fun to have you guys on Everything Teams Phone Live. And I want to thank Unified Communications for having us here in their office. That's been fantastic. You need to buy some equipment, unifiedcommunications.com. Guys, thanks so much. Brandon, you want to outro us, buddy?
Yeah. Michelle, happy weekend for you while we finish up our day. I hope you have a great weekend. And obviously, same for you, Jimmy. Same for our listeners. Have a great weekend and catch you next Friday.
That's a wrap,
Thanks, guys.